So often when I go and I see these movies, I can tell that the director, the people, the studios, they were really so focused on the spider that they forgot about the human. And this movie didn't do that. Welcome back to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing Arachnophobia. That's right, Arachnophobia, the spider fear movie that is much better than it has any right to be. And I believe that this movie could be a template for anything else like this, and that there's a lot to learn for almost any filmmaker from this movie. Let me explain what I mean. So, this movie, as much as any I've seen, is a really good example of how to dissect the deep fear that lies behind something that's inherently a little bit creepy. So we see that with something like The Exorcist in spiritual movies and demons and so forth. In Arachnophobia, this film, using all of the tools it has, really digs into what it means to be scared of a spider. How does it do that? Examples, sometimes you get these shots up on the ceiling, right? And it's almost like a spider's about to crawl down on you. Sometimes we're kind of almost like in the earth and on the ground where a spider could be creeping around. It plays on other things too. The main character, who's a doctor, when he was a little child, had a spider crawl on him in what may have been sleep paralysis, something like that. Whatever it was, he couldn't move, and he felt captured and trapped. There are spiders in other inconvenient places, like the bathtub. Any possible way a spider could scare you, this movie finds a way to work that in organically into the story. And it's not just the spider scary because spiders look creepy. It's scary because of the unknown factor. And I think this movie does a really good job of handling that part of the fear of spiders. Now, often what I see out of movies like this is this sense that we've got to create this product. We've got to have creepy spiders. And a lot of these kind of movies forget that what we want is we want our personal experience applied to a movie about the fear of spiders, or the fear of anything for that matter. And so part of how this movie does a good job with that is it has a great lead actor in Jeff Daniels, who, as I said, is a doctor. He's moved to the country, and he's trying to start a practice, and he has a fear of spiders. The spiders have come from somewhere in South America, and they are breeding, and eventually people realize they're a huge issue. They're not your typical spider. And since the actors are funny, including a great cameo from John Goodman, well, he's really more of just a regular character. Because of that, we're always laughing. We're always waiting for the next quip. I mean, this is a comedy as much as it is a horror, but it's not a comedy where we sort of laugh at like the fake spiders. They are well done for the most part. We're laughing because the characters sound like real people in a real situation where they're struggling, despite how ludicrous a lot of the plot actually is. And another piece of why I think this movie works so well is just like the way the payoffs are set up in this thing. The basement from the very beginning of the new house is sort of like a metaphor for everything wrong for the doctor. There might be termites eating away at the wood. There's wine that's expensive in the cellar, but he never really seems to be able to drink much of it. It's empty down there. It's hollow. It's forgotten, much like his career. But that basement sets up in the very beginning of the movie almost, well, after we get out of South America anyway. And this is continuously a returning point of the film. And eventually, the payoff is there. And we know why we spent so much time with this basement. The same thing's true for this doctor-on-doctor rivalry. The Jeff Daniels character, he's in a rivalry with the doctor who's been in town who won't leave. There's a little bit of a generational kind of fight there. It's a small little piece of the plot. It almost might remind you of an Ozu movie, generational gaps. But it's a nice little detail that's thrown in that has a real payoff that applies to the greater story. And even the origins of these spiders being in some deep place in South America, the way that's set up, the sort of exotic location, the far away, the unknown, that helps build the credibility of these spiders being a true menace. And I love the idea that they are actually a true menace. They could be in the barn, they could be in your shoe, they could be anywhere at any time. It's almost similar to It Follows, the great horror movie about the succubus demon. Like, no matter where you go, it could be there. And it's not just the spiders that are the fear. It's what you have in your mind. It's what you can't see for yourself. It's what you haven't dug into deep enough in your own past that you haven't dealt with, that you need exposure therapy to. Like if you were afraid of heights, because the character literally has to go through that kind of exposure therapy with spiders. And for a movie that should be a lot campier than it is, I mean, it's literally called Arachnophobia, the actual title even, Arachnophobia, plays a big role in how the story plays out and what the main character has to go through. And the result is that whether you're afraid of spiders, or you're afraid of drowning in water, or you're afraid of heights, like I said, or claustrophobia, whatever it is you're afraid of, you can probably relate to this character because he's funny enough, he's enjoyable enough, he's likable enough, and his fear of spiders could be a fear of anything that any of us could have. And I think this is so well done for what it is. It never goes too far from a pretty light, like, comedic sense of things, because it does know it's a movie called Arachnophobia. It never tries to go that philosophical, but somehow the lessons it teaches and the fun we have along the way really work for the viewer. So I wanted to make a little video explaining what I love so much about this movie and why I think it could be kind of like the template for a lot of these kind of movies that are made, because so often when I go and I see these movies, I can tell that the director, the people, the studios, they were really so focused on the spider that they forgot about the human. And this movie didn't do that, although the spider kills in this one. Like, they're varied and they're not the same thing over and over, and that's all good too. So I love this horror movie. I think it's way better than a lot of people do. What are your thoughts on Arachnophobia if you've seen it? Or do you have maybe another animal horror movie that you think it does something similar? Let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and give the video a like if you enjoyed it, a comment, something like that. Help us grow this thing. We'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.